Hi everyone, we are live now with our demonstration in how to make this little snowman out of Isomalt. So just join me for fun for about an hour. I will set the camera when I will start cooking the Isomalt. So hope you are there watching me, just turning the camera so you can see the setup. Okay. So I'm going to start by cooking the sugar. I'm not going to use sugar, I'm going to use Isomalt. So for those of you who don't know too much about the Isomalt, Isomalt is a synthetic sugar. Just bear with me 1 second, I need to adjust the camera a little. So it's a synthetic sugar. It's got less of the amount of calories of the sugar, and it doesn't absorb the humidity so quick, so it's great for creating decorations and even for eating. It's good for diabetics, but none of us can have more than 25 grams per day because as the body doesn't recognize it as a sugar, it tends to upset our stomach, so not more than like 25 grams per day. So I'm going to start cooking. I will set the scale to 0, and I've got my pot on this scale. I'm going to use distilled water. Yeah, so this is a pure water, doesn't contain any sort of minerals. So in case that you don't have distilled water, I will suggest to you to cook the Isomalt dry, no water at all. So again, set it to 0, make sure that it's grams, and then I'll put 100 grams. Oops. Oh, well, let's do 50. 50 will be fine. So 50 grams. And then 200 grams of Isomalt. Now for 100 grams of water, you need about 400 grams of Isomalt. I'm using Isomalt from Squire's Kitchen. It's uncooked Isomalt. Sometimes people do say that the Isomalt should be tempered, which is not the case, as the only one which requires tempering is the chocolate. Isomalt needs to be cooked like any kind of sugar. So we will cook it. So let's put first the 200 grams. It's a bit dusty. Anyway, the consistency is very hard. It looks like a detergent, if you can see it, but it's quite hard, so the granules are very hard. That already tells us that it doesn't absorb the moisture so quick like the sugar does. Okay, then I'm going to pop it into an induction plate. I usually use induction plates because they are more convenient for cooking the sugar and not just for cooking the sugar, for everything else. I'll put my gloves on. First of all, some cotton gloves, trying to stay safe, and then over the cotton gloves, which will protect against heat and also will absorb the moisture, I'm going to put some nitrile gloves. Though I wouldn't suggest you to use vinyl gloves or rubber gloves, just nitrile gloves. Okay, so I've got the gloves on. When you cook the sugar, you obviously work with a product which is going to reach a high temperature. I wouldn't suggest to have your kids around, or anyone actually around, which will be tempted to touch it because it's going to turn out very hot. So I'll put the stove on. Temperature wise, I will start with about 80-100 degrees. I'm using stainless steel tools, so the pot is a stainless steel pot. I've got a stainless steel spoon to work with. The consistency of the Isomalt will be pretty much, to start with, as a wet sand, but it will start boiling soon. So once I can see that the water starts covering the Isomalt, I will increase the temperature, as I'm looking to cook this Isomalt up to 180 degrees. Okay, so this doesn't burn, or it doesn't caramelize, not burn. It doesn't caramelize so quick as the sugar does. If you keep it over 200 degrees, then you might end up caramelizing and in the end burning the sugar. But it's not very easy to achieve that temperature without noticing. So even if you don't have a thermometer, you can still estimate. Literally when the whole solution of the isomalt gets clear, then you are done and your isomalt is cooked. Okay. So I'm going to continuously stir. It's not going to crystallize like the normal sugar can do. It doesn't need cleaning with a brush or with a sieve to scum the impurities, as long as you use the distilled water. So just to mention again, I'm using distilled water, no minerals at all on this water. So don't mix the distilled water with the mineral water, because that still has a lot of minerals inside. The pure water, it doesn't contain any minerals. Okay. So now that I can see that the sugar solution, the isomalt solution is quite runny, I will increase the temperature to, because of my gloves, the plate, it just behaves as is not so sensitive, to 160. That would be fine to start with. When it will start bubbling, I will increase it to about 180 degrees. Now, if you're planning to color this isomalt, I will suggest to add the coloring at about 150 degrees and then carry on cooking the colored isomalt up to 180 degrees. Now, to color, the best colors to use will be the dust colors, as they are the purest colors you can get. Now, you can buy liquid colors, and they will be great because they practically have the same consistency as your sugar solution. But those liquid colors which you buy ready-made, they might contain some preservatives or some other impurities. While if you buy dust colors and add few drops of hot water into the dust color to dilute, then you get a pure, that's the purest color you can get in regards with the quality, and that would be ideal for cooking the isomalt. Okay, so if you want to color, you can include that, put that color in at 150 degrees and continue to cook up to 180 degrees. Once you reach the 180 degrees, your isomalt is cooked, and you can put it into a silicone mat, a heat-proof mat. What I'm going to use will be actually a baking silicone container, pot, tray, how you want to call it. Okay. So you can see part of the isomalt got melted, but there is still a lot to go along. I've got some ready colored and cooked isomalt in here. It's green, but really the color is not relevant. I'm going to melt it in the microwave to pour it onto this board. That will be the base for the snowman. I'm just looking where I put my little snowman. Okay, so if you look in here, this snowman is stuck on the surface. That surface is actually just some colored isomalt, and I've sprinkled some raw isomalt, and then I've attached the snowman. The best base to stick the isomalt pieces on is going to be the isomalt. But in case you want to use those decorations and stick them on fondant, then the only product which will help you will be either the royal icing. Don't use any edible glue because that's not going to work. So you can use the royal icing, or you can melt some of the sugar and apply it to the fondant and then apply the decorations. But the hot sugar might ruin your fondant, so you might not want to do that. So the sugar solution started to boil. In the meantime, as I said, I will just put that green isomalt into the microwave. I brought in the microwave some already cooked isomalt, which I can practically use. So it's quite tight in here. Okay, so I'm going to put those callets. They are into a silicone cup, and I'm going to set the timing to 1 minute and double check what happens in 1 minute, if it's runny enough to pour it onto the board. I'm going to scratch the board to pour that colored isomalt when it comes out from the oven. Okay, in the meantime, I'll just keep watching my my Isomalt cooking. I'm not sure if you can see, I do hope you can see, it gets clearer and clearer, but I still got like granules of Isomalt. So at this point, I'm sure it's not going to be the right temperature. I can put the thermometer on. The most accurate one, it will be the inserted thermometer, but I do have an infrared one, just for, that's easier to obviously to use, but it's not so accurate when it comes to liquid, hot liquids, because you cannot read the real temperature inside of the pot. So I'm not sure if you can see on the screen, but the temperature is now 103, 104, so still a long way to go till the right one. If I do the reading with the infrared, it will show me 112 degrees, so pretty much the same. But to be accurate, you just need to use the inserted thermometer. Now, looking at my Isomalt, which was popped in the microwave, I've had quite a few good number of pellets or pieces of Isomalt. They've got quite liquid, so I've scratched the board to make sure that they will get good contact with the liquid will get good contact with the board. So I'm just literally going to pour. Now, just for the fun and for you to see how the shimmer colors look onto the Isomalt, I will sprinkle some gold powder. I've got some gold powder here. It's just like edible color, but it's for professionals, and I do use it for my chocolate work. So nothing special about this dust. It's just the amount. It's a larger pot. So just putting some gold dust. Now this Isomalt is still running, yeah, so I'm just going to twist and create a bit of a design, goldy design in here. So I do hope you can see, it keeps a really nice shimmer on it. But once the Isomalt, this Isomalt will start getting hard, in like a minute or so, I will start sprinkling some raw Isomalt, because literally during the winter we don't have too much green around us, so it will just not look realistic. So I'm just going to sprinkle when it's like half set, not dry, because it doesn't dry, it's just half set. We just sprinkle, and that's going to be the base to be used later to set our snowman. Okay, now I'll keep looking for my Isomalt here, which is cooking vigorously. Just double check the temperature. Okay. So we are still very low, so I'm going to increase the temperature on my hot plate up to 200 degrees. That's the maximum temperature of my hot plate. Now, if you want to invest more and get more kind of performance induction plate, you can definitely buy one which will go to the temperatures more than 200 degrees. Okay, 120, so it goes up quite quickly. So after 120 degrees, you will notice that it starts getting quite kind of thicker comparing with what it was. So that liquid is not as liquid as it was, but I only have like 125 now. Good. So keep stirring, keep cooking. Overall it's going to take about 15 minutes to cook this, so we are almost done, almost there. I just want you to see what exactly happens. And how long it takes in the real life to cook it. I've got 130 degrees and the Isomalt is quite fluid now, but not very, very runny as it was before. 100, as I said, 130. Now in the meantime, while I'm waiting for the right temperature to be reached, I will set the working surface by just placing my silicone mats. I usually use like 2-3 pieces of silicone mats. They are heat-proof mats. just to protect my granite surfaces, because I do need them for chocolate, and I know they are usually fine. You can put hot stuff on them, but I still want to protect them. So you can put 2 pieces or 3 pieces, especially if your worktop is quite sensitive to the heat. You should protect the surface. Now if you by mistake put any isomalt or sugar, boiled sugar on the worktop, if they are not heat sensitive, they will be all fine, because you can put a damp cloth over and you will remove the sugar. But if the temperature will cause damage to the worktop, then that's going to be a problem, because then partly that's not fixable. Okay, so just be careful with that. Just going back to here, and to check the temperature, I will just use both thermometers. Now, quite a few of my students, they do ask, how do I get a clear isomalt? So after cooking, if you leave the isomalt on the side, so I've got already 145, so 150. Once you reach 125 degrees, the temperature goes up very quick. Literally what happens, over 125 degrees, you lose a lot of water. So the temperature of cooking temperature will go up very quick. So not too much time left for cooking. Going back to the stuff I said about the clarity of the isomalt. As you can see, it does look fairly clear. If you cook it over 200 degrees, it's not going to be clear. It will turn up like ivory caramel color. But once you've cooked it, you just leave it to cool down, and you will become crystal clear. Quite often I'm asked, how do you make jewelries, you know, those molds which you can use to create jewelries looking decorations, and how do you get them crystal clear? Unless you can work under pressure, in the sense that you've got a vacuum pump to remove the air bubbles, that's not going to happen ever, because the contrast of the temperatures will always put those little bubbles on top. You can remove them by using a torch and softening the surface, but at the same time with the air bubbles, you will remove the sharp edges of the diamonds, so-called diamonds. So you practically can't do too much. It's like working with silicone to create molds. You know, those of you who probably tried to create different molds out of silicone, they do know that if you don't have the right tools, then you can't do it. So I've reached 186 degrees, so my isomalt is cooked. Now usually we get the habit of stopping the cooking process by dipping the pot into some cold water, but I don't have the facilities of putting any hot water, cold water in here, so I'll just put down on the marble for this very moment, and I will just push the cooking bit away, as I don't need it. And that's the board, which is now set. That also doesn't need to stay in here, it can go in a different spot. And I'll go back to my isomalt, so you see it's fairly clear, and I'm going to pour some in here and wait to see what happens and how it gets clear. Good. Now in the amount of isomalt I've got left, I can also put some coloring, so just to show you how you can color, but just let's keep a bit more of the clear one. Okay, so I've got some green in here. I did say ideally would be to dissolve this dust, is some moss green from Sugar Flare, but ideally would be to dilute this in some water and then put in here. Now I will just break the rule and I will just sprinkle some dust, just for you to see how you can color. You will still see like spots of color, and this normally needs to be cooked to get like an uniform color, so it gets lighter and then deeper in color as you stir and as you mix, because the dust will take a little while to dissolve, but we might go back to it just a bit later. You see it turns up green. It's still going to be translucent. That's another thing to consider. If you want that to look matte, like the one I've got cooked in here, you need to add a bit of white just to give that opacity. As you can see in here, the isomalt will turn up pretty much clear, and it will get clearer and clearer. Now you see all those bits which drops, they can be very easy removed. Okay, so this is very liquid, but it will start cooling. Now to speed up the process of cooling, all I need to do is just to transfer the isomalt from one spot to the other and help this to cool down. I might actually take one or two of the silicone mats away, trying to speed up the process of cooling. Once the isomalt will get cold enough, I'm going to start building the isomalt, building like we normally build the hot sugar in little blocks by just folding. So we'll stretch in a strip and then we'll overlap. Considering that strip will be split in 3 parts, I will just fold the left side in, right, or left side in, right side in, and then stretch, and then do repeatedly for about 20-25 times. What is going to happen by stretching, we'll get a nice piece of isomalt, and it will be aerated. So if you can imagine, the honeycomb will create a kind of a structure, as in a honeycomb inside of our sugar. So it will give us the nice shine, and we'll have the ability of blowing the isomalt with a little pump and create different shapes. So while we are waiting for this to cool down, I will go back to my pot and see where I colored the green. So it's a pale green, but I only put a little bit of color, and I still got bits of dust which have not been yet melted. I will fill up a silicone cup. I'm pretty sure most of you have got this silicone cups, because that's just one small piece from a set of, I think, 6. And I'm always asked if they can be used for making chocolate bubbles. Yes and no. Yes, they can, but professionals will not use them because it's just such a soft material to work with, and also you might not get the right shine. But yeah, they can be used. There is no such an answer like no, because if we try to break the rules, we always end up discovering new things. So yeah, of course. I'm just trying to glaze the sides and get a nice finishing and get a nice half size bubble. Okay, so we'll just leave it for a little while, going back to my isomalt, which I've just cooked, and see if that kind of got cold. If I will check the temperature, I've got 128 now. Once I will go down to about 80 degrees, then it will stop being so runny, and I will be able to start folding and stretching. And then obviously that's going to cool down the isomalt quicker. So looking back at my little cup, I'm going to pour out the excess. Now I'm wearing gloves, so I can't really feel the heat, but it's still very hot, so it's something to be aware of if you are trying to do it. Okay, so it's quite a nice layer of isomalt. Now if you don't want to get into troubles when you finish and when you decide to remove it from the pot, you can clean the edges. Just use a knife. Bear in mind that once the stainless steel of the blade, it will start getting warm, it will start getting sticky as well. So you need to cool it down, either on a cold surface or using a damp cloth, which is cold. Okay. So again, just trying to show you if you can see. Trying to coat this as thick as it can so that it just looks nice when it's done. Good, and I'm pretty much okay with that. So I will just leave this cup upside down on the side, and later when we'll be done, I will show you how it looks like. It will take a little while to set, maybe like a half an hour or so. As you can see, that the isomalt started to get cold. Now to work with it, and that's the reason why I prefer those little silicone baking pans. They keep the isomalt and they stop the isomalt from running on the table, and also you can very easy start folding towards the center to cool down the edges without touching this hot sugar, as obviously it's going to put too much pressure on yourself. Just keeping your hands on hot sugar for such a long time. Okay, so keep folding. As I'm going to aerate, I really don't care about that. Obviously, if you want to maintain it clear, then you will just leave it to cool down, or depends on the project, you might decide to pour it onto a silicone mold or onto a frame or whatever you want to work with. Okay, so keep going. In case it sticks to the glove, all you need to do is just to cool it, okay, on the surface, on another, you know, part of your hand which is quite cold, and it just peels off very easy. Yeah, quite a lot of my students, they end up having their hands covered with sugar, and they don't really know what to do. So it's always the fact that you need to cool the sugar, and it will come off from your glove. If the glove gets deteriorated, it's quite often when you end up cutting your glove, as the isomalt or the sugar can get very sharp. You always need to change the glove, because if the sugar gets in contact with your cotton glove, you will need to change that cotton glove as well. It gets covered in sugar, and all that sugar will cool down, and it will make your work impossible. Okay, so now I'm to that stage. I'm at that stage when the sugar comes away. As a fact, as a matter of interest, the temperature is like 90 degrees. So when it will be like 80, it will come off completely, like I said. Now, with the blowing temperature is about 50 to 60 degrees. If you can do it on a lower temperature, even better. The shine is even nicer. You just need to be fit enough to maneuver the sugar, and that is one of my problems. I'm not so fit. I don't have so much strength on my arms, so I need to work with the Isomalt slightly hotter than normal, and then obviously that's sometimes a bit of a pain, because the shimmer doesn't look extraordinary as it should look for a competition piece. It's perfectly fine just for fun and for cakes and for classes, but for competition work, obviously you need to look for something more kind of professional look. So that's definitely not my thing, because, as I said, I don't have that strength of pulling the sugar when it's cold. The cooler, the nicer the shine. So I've got this coming off, so probably about 80 degrees. And as I said, I'm going to start building that block of sugar. It's the fact that by pulling we'll incorporate air, but we'll not just stretch the isomalt in all the directions. We'll start with this kind of block, and then we'll stretch one side, fold it in, the other one in, squash, and then repeat till it gets nice and shiny. Okay, it doesn't stick to the hands as long as you don't keep your hands on it for a very long time, but it's not pleasant to keep your hands on a very high temperature. So yeah, if you've got problems and you don't bear the heat, just cool your hands on the side. Okay, and then come back, stretch, and then just keep building those chambers of air inside of the sugar. Stretch, in. If it sticks, just apply a bit of pressure, try and cool down the area, and it will come off. Not sure if you can see, it doesn't require too much work to start seeing the shine, but it's still very warm. As long as it still moves, it doesn't stay still, it's not workable. As obviously if we try to work with that when it moves, the shape of whatever you want to create, you will not maintain. So keep doing it. Now if I'm not on the camera, obviously I can move around and just find a cooler spot and, you know, try and cool that quicker. But in here I will just need to wait for just a bit longer for the sugar to cool down. If I would put the fan on, as I do have a fan next to me, to cool down when I will start blowing the bubbles, to cool down the sugar, it will cool it down too quick. So it's again something which I can't really use. So stretching, so it got firmer and also nicer and shinier. Okay. Okay, it would be nice to hear how many of you are enjoying watching. It would be nice if you can pop a comment. And by the way, talking about comments and enjoyment, I will run a demo tomorrow. I normally, if you notice, I run the demos on Tuesday because that's so-called day off. It's not a day off, as today, for example, I've had the second day on the mirror glaze cakes, but we've been so busy doing so many types of entremets and monoportion gâteaux. We did not have the chance to take, we took photos, but we had no chance to post them, but we will do. I'll see what beautiful results we had in our class. So yeah, Tuesday evening is normally the demonstration eve for live demo on Facebook, but tomorrow evening I'm going to demonstrate how to paint in like 15-20 minutes, just a very easy painting design for Christmas. So in case that you are interested, you can join me tomorrow night. You don't need particularly tools. For those of you who are into cake decorating, you might have already some edible colors. So it will be just a very quick and easy job to do. So as you can notice, the sugar now looks, oops, it got stuck. So it looks really nice. It doesn't move so badly, so just maybe 1 or 2 stretches and you will be ready to be blown. Okay, to blow I'm using a little pump. It's got a copper pipe on the end. You can also, I mean, in the past people used to use wooden ones, but to be honest, I've never used one. So I'm going to now start stretching on the opposite direction as I've built up the sugar already, so it's all good to go. What I'm going to try and do is to find a spot where the sugar looks really nice, and I will lift up a blob, okay, and get a scissor and cut this away, and then I will just do a quick rotation on my palm and then pick that area where I've cut with my scissor. I will push with my finger in, and with my thumbs I will try to get the same thickness in between my finger and thumb, and then my thumb and finger, if that makes sense, using the both thumbs here. So just to make that little hollow, little is not that little, so that hollow inside. It's very hot inside, okay, but I do need the temperature. I will insert the copper pipe and I will try to seal this perfectly around the pipe, and I will just pull gently to make sure that the end of the pipe is not sealed by the sugar, and I will just gently squeeze the air in. Quite often people do intend to squeeze the air in immediately. You don't need to do it, because if you do it, then obviously you intend to pump more air in one side than in the other. And then once you've got the pipe in and the sugar is still sealed around the pipe, all you need to do is just to squeeze the air gently to maintain the shape. If the balloon goes in one side, you tilt it on the other side. It's very hot, so it will be maneuverable. Okay, so keep blowing, rotating. Use the gravitation to help you to get that round shape. Turn it. You will notice the pipe, the copper pipe inside at one point. You can keep blowing and then just stretching the balloon to make sure that it's all round. Okay, but don't blow it huge. If you want a huge one, you should start with a large amount of sugar. I'm just going to stop here because I don't want this to crack. Okay, so I will turn the fan on to cool it down. As even if you think, okay, why do we need to cool it down? We need to, because if you don't cool it down perfectly, it's going to become wobbly. Inside is still very hot. As you can see, it's still maneuverable. Okay, so in order to get a firm consistency, we just need to cool it down completely. Now, they do say that if you touch your chicken, the temperature is bearable. Apparently, you cannot feel what sort of temperature that is, then it's done. Okay, but it's not so hygienic, so I will probably say if you keep it in front of the fan, it would be much better. While I'm keeping this in front of the fan, just not to waste the time after, I will pop this in the microwave for like 30 seconds or even less, maybe 20 seconds, just to try and keep the temperature workable to the right stage. so that we can blow another one small, and then we'll start building the snowman, as I've got some bulbs on the side just in case that they will break. We've got something to use. I did the other day a snowman just to have it as an example, and as you can see, it broke because it's just sugar. It can happen. So I quickly made another one. Now at this point it feels quite cold, and I can also take the temperature, but obviously not in front of the fan because that will not be, it's still 44 degrees. So you might think 44, that sounds quite a lot, but it is 44 degrees. Usually when I twist the copper pipe inside, it comes off. Now it doesn't happen now, so what means is that I will need to put the flame on. I've got a spirit lamp in here, and I'm just going to cut with the hot knife around the base of the bubble, and obviously I will release the pump as well. Okay, so I will just turn off the fan, as I cannot put my spirit lamp on as long as the fan blows. And you see, I'm not a smoker, so I couldn't find a lighter, so the only bit I've managed to find were some matches. So old style, good. So I'm going to start burning the blade, so I need to make it super hot. Also, I do have a damp cloth ready. After every cut, I will remove the excess sugar by wiping the blade on the hot wiping the hot blade covered with sugar on that damp towel. So just going to cut. Okay, trying to move this on one side so you can see what happened. Yeah, cleaning. You should stay quite close to the surface in case that you end up cutting completely, to make sure that the bubble doesn't get broken. Okay, oops. So in case that you feel that the blade gets stuck, it means you still got sugar, and the more sugar you leave on the blade, you will caramelize and it will affect the color of your bulb. So, you know, with sugar work and generally with cake decorating, you cannot rush. If you rush, you go wrong. I mean, you cannot rush in any kind of aspects. Whatever job you do, if you start rushing, things don't go always right. So cake decorating is definitely one type of job which does require a lot of patience and passion. And I'm pretty sure you all agree with me if you are into cake decorating, because the amount of time you need to spend in finishing a project is sometimes just ridiculous. But if you do it with passion, it really doesn't matter. So managed to cut almost 3/4. Now the other ones which I've got already on the side, they're already cut, so that's a good news. So you don't need to spend the time watching me cutting the sugar, but I just need to show you how, in case that you will be tempted to try. If you're looking for sugar pumps, Artisan Chocolaterie, they sell sugar pumps, and they're about £10, so not super expensive. Okay, and if you are interested, let me know, put a comment, and I will run more demos in how to blow different shapes, not just balloons. But I would say to start with, you should start with the balloons. Oops. Trying to work gently so that I don't break the balloon. Okay, so that's a nice one. Now to get rid of all the leftovers, I will just practically put that over the flame, and that will just get nice and soft. In case that the glove sticks to the sugar, I will just keep it there for just a little bit, and then I will pop it out and it will come up really easy. So that's the first bulb. And then I've got some excess here which I can melt, or I can just knock with my knife, and then I end up getting like lots of crumbs of sugar, which I will dispose onto another container. Okay, now we'll go back to my Isomalt in here, see if that's still okay. I'm going to cover the flame, so I don't need it for the time being. It got cold, but if I would be able to just soften at least one small section, just to show you how I can, you know, blow another small bit, and maybe trying to do it slightly different. Okay, just cutting one piece of sugar, as everybody is different. You might find this method being easier to work with, and you've got this piece, and then you just wrap it again. Make sure all the walls are even in size, and you just kind of bring the sugar around the pipe. It's not my preferred way, but it can work. So you need to squeeze and just seal that, and then start pumping. Okay, and I think it just makes more sense to start with the bulb than to start with a piece of sugar. But if that's your favorite method, what not? So just make sure that if you hear this noise, it means that the bulb is not sealed properly. So you need to squeeze with your hand and increase that amount of pressure to make sure that the air gets inside of the bulb and not on the side. Okay, so that would be a smaller bulb. Still not. Okay, so now it's not losing any air. A smaller bulb, which you can also just work in the same way I did the other one. But I got a crease because I said I usually don't use this method. But yeah, I've managed to take off the pipe without cutting, so that's good. So this is going to be broken and placed on the side. I don't need it because I've got some already here, so that you don't get bored about, you know, waiting. Some bowls. The reason why I put them in the box, even if I said the Isomalt doesn't absorb the humidity in the same way the sugar does, I've got this container, and right at the bottom I've got some kind of desiccated chloride, is to maintain the level of humidity to very low. You can buy silica gel, which is and there are options for buying silica gel as food grade. But if you are just doing it for fun, I would probably say, you know, those dehumidifiers you can buy from a £1 shop. There are just some granulas which you put under the sink into a little plastic container, and they absorb the humidity. You can get one with £1, take the granulas and just put them in a box. In that box, put a piece of aluminium foil on the top, and here's your container to maintain the pieces and prevent them to get quite sticky. Now, while I'm going to start building the snowman, I've got already cooked black Isomalt, and I've got some more on the side. I might need a bit more. I'll put 2-3 colors, and I'm going to melt this while I'm going to set the body, as I need to make his hat. This goes into the microwave, and I will set like it will need at least a minute. Before starting to build up the snowman, let's see what we've got here, because that got cold. That is a beautiful bubble, half bubble. Yeah, so I think it looks quite cool, and it did not involve too much. But as you can see, all the little bubbles, they are showing as it was worked not under pressure, not into a vacuum chamber. And if you try to remove the air bubble with a torch, you might end up melting this bubble. Okay, good. So going back to the snowman, I need my board. Where is it? Okay, the one to use for setting the snowman. I'm going to pick one large bowl, and then a medium-sized one. Okay, and a small size one. Okay, I think the largest one is this, but it doesn't look so cool. Which one? I think those 3 will be fine. So we'll start with this, and hopefully have no breakages. You never know. You never know, but it's just sugar, and we've got some spares. Going back to the matches, and then just put the flame on. If you're working with a spirit lamp, always be very careful. Sometimes it's very easy to see the flame. Okay, I've got my black silicone, the black Isomalt which got melted on this silicone pot. Let's cover the flame as this is hot. I want to do some work in here. So I've got a piece of thermostable or kind of flexi mat. It's clear, but it doesn't really matter if it's clear or if it's colored. But it's thermo-resistant. So, and I've got like a wooden stick. I'm going to first of all insert that pick into the Isomalt while it's still running, and what I will do, I will literally just put some drops. I need to make the eyes and some buttons, so I will not get stress of doing the same size dots. I will keep blobbing some Isomalt, make like, I don't know, 20 little blobs, and then pick the ones I need, because quite often you end up with different other shapes than round. Okay, so just placing some more bits in here. They will get cold very quick. Okay, but I think they are fine. Just maybe try and do too large to make the eyes. I will probably need to keep this quite flat in order to get the eyes very round. Again, just dipping in here. You can practically regain the round shape by applying the torch, but I don't have a torch handy, so I forgot to get one. Okay, so I've got two large eyes. Oh, one is larger than the other, so let's have another attempt. Let's see the third one. Hopefully will match the size of one of the two I already created. So those would be the eyes to use. Yeah, that looks great. I can also put some silicone, put some Isomalt on the side and start kind of drawing his broom. Or if you want, you can make him arms. So I'm just going to put a little broom. Okay, just stretching out that Isomalt, and do a few more pieces separately to attach them, so make the broom to look more fluffy. Now, as you can notice, the temperature dropped down and it's not so runny anymore. Okay, I think that would be just enough. And I'm going to pour a blob, hoping, oops, I think I put too much. Let's put another one in here. I don't need it huge in size because that's going to be for his hat. And I'm trying to be quite good to maintain it round. If it doesn't stay round, it's fine, as I can always just start reshaping. Now this big blob, I'm going to use it to make the top of the hat. Okay. Trying to cool down and remove this Isomalt from my glove. Good. And now with this one, what we'll do, I'll just press with the mat, trying to get a round shape, if it works. If it doesn't work, as I said, I will just do it by modeling, but it's always easier to do it this way. So pour on the mat, put the mat over, and try and flatten. Okay. Maybe adjust the circle with your knife. Make sure that the knife doesn't have any traces of sugar like mine. We just need to put this under a damp cloth to moisten clean. So if it doesn't work, as it did not work for me, we'll just get it, knead it pretty much like a piece of paste, and then roll it into a ball shape and then squash it. That will also do. Okay. So obviously some of the temperature have gone here, but I don't want a perfect round piece of Isomalt. The more I run my fingers over, the more glossy it gets. This is black, and the black and white are always opaque. If you want to make any other color opaque, don't forget you need to add some white. Cook the Isomalt 150 degrees, add a few drops of white and then a few drops of your favorite color, and the Isomalt will turn up looking like glass. Okay, so that's the flat part of the hat. With the other piece, start modeling. And doing the top of the hat ball shape, and then we'll try to shape it as a log shape. Now I've just remembered that I did not do a nose. I can melt some colored Isomalt, or I can just do it out of black. I think I'm going to just quickly melt some of this red and then place it in here 1 minute while I'm dealing with the hat. So just to make a little nose. So keep rotating and create a little blob of to be applied on top of the hat and to mimic the snowman's hat. I'm thinking with the red I will do the nose and I might do a scarf. Okay, so just press in. Okay, it does take a little while for this to cool down because it's a large piece of Isomalt, so I can put the fan on or I can just leave it and keep on ice so it gets a decent shape. If it's still warm, it will stick to the base very easy. If it gets too cold, then you can use the flame and then you soften the base and then you attach. So the heat will be the best glue for sugar. Sugar on sugar with a bit of heat, it will be great. Over here we've got the hat. Okay, I'm going to turn the fan on one side and put it to blow but away from my working surface so it doesn't cool down the surface, but it still gives the hat the chance to get cold. Okay, put this in here and hopefully it will just cool down nicely. Now going back to the red now, as this is ready melted, maneuver it with care because it's quite liquid. I will just use this to just put a little bit of Isomalt in here. Okay, in fact let's pour some. We might be able to make a little strip to put around his hat. Okay, leave it to cool down for 1 sec. In the meantime, go back to the broom that is already set. Okay, and you will be stuck on the snowman just a bit later. Cleaning now the blade which got moist, being kept under the damp cloth. And I will put this in here. When the time comes, I'm going to start setting the broom. Okay, now with this one, it got pretty much cold. Just picking with my fingers, trying to kind of work and get it cold. Okay, I don't want to aerate necessarily, I just want to make sure that it cools down. And if it cools down, I can just cut a nose and maybe just make a little scarf. Okay, looking at the hat, you see it's still soft, still warm, still moving, even if it was already sitting in front of the fan for like 2-3 minutes. Okay, now in here to cut the nose, I will just roll this into kind of a oval shape or bean shape. Yeah, and I will just trim one piece. Okay, and then just do another one just in case. It's always good to have spares. See which one we are going to use. But this piece left, I will start stretching. This is a beautiful red. Same principle like making so-called bows and strips. And I'm going to put this around his hat. Okay, while it's still warm. Okay, and then the excess, I will just pull it and I will cut. Okay, cute. That's an extra bit. So I've got the hat, I've got the eyes, I've got the broom and the bubbles and the nose. So all I need to do is to start building the snowman. My board, put the flame on again. Okay, gently without melting the whole bubble. I will just, oops, Make sure that it doesn't get too close to the flame, as it can crack. This is already cold. Okay. So just trying to melt the edges. Be careful not to burn your gloves. Very easy to burn your gloves when you work with a torch. And that will go here on the surface. Ideally will be to wait for every bubble to cool down before setting the next one. Otherwise things might go wrong. I will try my best to not to crack the item, but it's not too much time left till we kind of need to finish this demo. So okay, I'll place this on top of the previous one. Oops, I did say I would be good, and look what I did. Never mind, we've got another one. It's just sugar. So just get this one, warm up. Maybe I've been too harsh, I've pressed a bit too hard. Or the bubble was too fine. Both were reasonable reasons. Okay, go back, stick this on. Try and soften the edge. I'll be more gentle this time. And then do the smaller one. Okay, try to tilt so that you can see. Let me just do a bit more, as you might probably got cold. That will go in here. I need to be quite gentle. If I'm not gentle, it might pop and crack like the other one did. Okay, now in here, before adding the rest of the details, I'm going to start setting the eyes and the buttons and the nose. Let's see, in my brain, there are just different terms from cake decorating. So I've got a tweezer, which I'm going to use to transfer the eyes. Okay, I think I had some traces of sugar on that tweezer and it got stuck. So again, I'm going to pinch this and then just warm a little, set on here. Then I will pop the nose. Again, warming one end. That will be stuck in here. Usually sets very quick. Okay. I don't have any small bits to use. Let's see if I still got some soft Isomalt to use to make the teeth. Just a small piece of Isomalt, the black Isomalt. I'm going to burn the end, and while it's running I will just touch gently. Put him a smile. Okay, then I will add the buttons. I can add the buttons which I've already made, or again, same like I did with the mouth, with the teeth. I can, probably would be safer because I might crack the bubbles. I did the other ones, but just applying the pearls as they look nicer. But I will just do this by just touching with the melted Isomalt. Whatever method you want to use, it will be fine. Good, so that's all done. I just need to set the broom. Now with the broom, I've got a large piece in here. I've got the other one just to attach, just a touch of flame, and that can get stuck in here. And pick the other one up. And melt and do the same thing, attach on the other side. Just put him an extraordinary broom. Okay, just warm up the end a little and set it in here somewhere. Okay, just needs a bit more. Okay, just attach it gently to the bubbles. With the hat, I will just put the flame on the hat as it's a fuller piece, as if I would try to warm up the top of the head. It might collapse because it's just a soft bubble. So I'm just going to attach this onto the head. Okay, good, so all done. I'll leave it to cool down, turn off the flame, strip the gloves, take off the camera. Oops, sorry. I think we got disconnected. Well, no, we didn't. Turn the camera so that I can say thank you very much for watching. This is the little guy. Oh, let me turn. Oops! I think you've heard what happened. It all got smashed. But anyway, you've noticed it ended up looking quite great, but it got broken. So next time we might be lucky and get a full piece one. But thank you for watching and see you soon.